Italian leathercraft designers. They watch me and they come up with ideas. It's true, man. There's the one thing, the multi-tool thing I made back in the day. It's like one of them are like, it's over here somewhere. It's got all the crazy stuff in it, copied, and I'm about to make something else. It'll blow someone's mind. They're like, yeah, I want to make that too. I'll sell it for $500 a pop. Woo! All right. Hope you guys enjoy this. Please share if you like this stuff. And let's get started. First thing that I always start with, I try to go for scraps. These are cut-offs. You can see where they've labeled what the serial number was or whatever from manufacturing. You know, cutting it out. This is batch number or whatever. And, you know, I take these little scrap pieces and I use them. They've got pin markings on them, but that's okay for now. I can fiddle with that later, and I try to get what I'm going to need out of the way. Even some of these, this one's really jacked up. It's got cuts in it, so I can't really use that. Now, the next thing I want to do out of all this, so I got these little pieces all over the place. I want to take, see, I want to use a board. This is what I would prefer to do every time I do these things. Is if you're doing this at the comfort of your home, all right, and you're looking for ways to make a shape, I do it this way to help others out there figure out how to do it without a lot of extra tools. So I'm gonna start off with this. I've used a piece of board, and it's just cheap board, and then I do cardboard over the top of it, and then I go from there. And then first things first, I'll have to find a case to put over, and then I got to get some leather wet and get that started. The tool that I'm using is like your Victorinox type thing, and a lot of people like carrying these things around, and I want to put it in something so it has space. You want to layer it with something over the top and the bottom, and then a little piece on the side. You've got to create something bigger than the tool that you're using, because if you don't, then you're going to be cramming it in there. So if you form fit it to just this, it's not going to do right. So it's best to use like a sheet of cardboard over the top, bottom, and sides, and then mold over that. So I've got to go grab something for that. All right, now I got to find a piece of leather that works. Got it wrapped cardboard, and it's cut exact fit both sides, and then wrapped in aluminum foil is something I do. I don't know if you do that sort of thing. Let's see. Find a piece. I think it's thick as all get up. I don't have anything thinner, so this is gonna have to work. Now I just cut these pieces off here. I know it's in the shape of a triangle. It's all good though. And this right here. Let's toy with it till I figure out how can I fit a triangle. Soak it. As you soak it in your water. You could run it under a sink, but I like doing it like this because it gives somebody something else different they can do. Sometimes I do this with dye if I have a really large piece, but I want it to be perfect. And instead of smearing the dye on, I do it like this. You guys have watched enough of these that you see I do something different every time, because I'm always trying to learn something a little bit different, make life a little bit easier. Now it's nice and soft. Some people do it differently. They use like a moist towel or something, right? Or whatever it is they want to do. All right, lay the item in place. Find out exactly which piece is going to work to your advantage here. You want it to have an opening at the top when you do this. So it's literally that simple. And then I just have to tack it down. And it's a little bit thicker leather. I wanted it like that because it gives it a certain look. And it doesn't give it that this was made in China look. If you do it with thinner material, it tends to have that cheap made in China look with that thin stuff. You'll see it all the time, like an EDC pocket carrier type thing that goes on your hip. I think there's like 20 million ads for it all over the place. But it's literally made out of super thin leather, and it's going to wear out. It's going to fall apart. Something like this is more rugged. You'll have it for years and years. You could pass it down to your family members. That's the reason why I do it like this versus doing it out of some cheap, thin stuff. There's a difference in the amount of ounces you should probably be using for a lot of these things. Looks like I might have to flip this around. Let me get this board flipped. That's how I'm going to tack it down. You'll see in just a minute. I ended up having to change. This wasn't holding as good, so I ended up having to, I do this sometimes where I switch, but I'm using just a piece of scrap board. This has got a little bit more bite to it, and I couldn't do this. And the leather is really thick, so this is going to have to dry for a minute. I'll have to come back. Once it dries, I'll be able to pull this off, and it'll be a nice template I can use to create the rest of it. I went ahead and dyed everything. Ugh. Hearing about everything going on outside, it's just crazy. I'm in here just doing leather craft, and I'm hearing gas prices are on the rise, and well, and not just that, gas pumps are out of gas, and that my wife's like, pray that a crackhead doesn't take all the gas out of her car while she's working in the ER. So she can get home. No kidding, right? Alright, well, I just got to figure out how I want this and how I want all this to work. I want to do a small strap that comes up and snaps a button, and just have to figure out the proper way of doing this so that it's not too confusing. Let's see. So this would have to have a loop. I have to make a loop. It has to have a loop. It has to be able to fit through, come down. I would do a snap or something old-fashioned. I'd like to do something old-fashioned, but you can't. Well, I guess you can, since you're doing a loop. You could still squeeze it through. So now I just have to glue this down and then cut out the rest. That's pretty much what's next on the list. I have to glue this down, and then I'm going to have to cut around everything to get it the right size, because I'm not going to be able to just I'm going to have to do it after the fact, because there's so many moving parts to this. I'm going to have to cut it afterwards. So let's just go ahead, and I'm going to glue it down, and I'm going to go ahead and drill out some holes. Let's see. Snaps. Let's figure out snaps. Should I do snaps? So I've got something else. Let me grab this piece. I wanted to use this. I had this left over from another project I thought was cool. I think that would be neat if I can incorporate that into this. Like this. It comes in. I wonder if I can get it where it comes up. And then it'll go through that. It's too many moving parts. That's the problem with these projects, is it gets too confusing trying to come up with that final look. I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Yeah. Go ahead and cut this where it needs to be. That goes over. and see if I need to come up with something for this. All right, this will be the tab for opening and closing. I got a vision in my head. I just got to find my tools. I can make this happen. I just need to be patient and try to get it done the right way, so it doesn't look too crazy. Let's get that cut. There we go. There's that piece. Now I'm going to need smaller gauge on one side, and then I'm going to do a bigger gauge on the other. If I don't, then it's not going to work. I'm having to use a drill bit for this part. I don't usually do this, but I had to for this one because I don't have a pin punch that's that size. So I'm going to have to do it like that for the meantime. And then I've got to get a smaller piece to cut it out. See, now, nice cut out. Should snap right in there. Just like that. There we go. I can work on the next piece. Now this next piece is rather unique to the design, and I wanted it like this for a reason. Now, just have to figure out where it's going to go. So, let's do, I imagine there being a hole there for it to go through. So let's just go ahead and pin punch here. Let's pin punch here. And then we'll just have to figure out the rest of it as we go. Alright. Go ahead and get these drilled out, cut, and figure out the next step of this. Alright, there's your starter holes. And I just need to get a line made all the way across it, so it will fit the other piece of leather through. This is always the fun part. The make something I haven't made yet part. So I'm learning myself as I make it. Can I do it? Can I get that out of there without making a mess? Sometimes you always miss a spot. There it goes. Okay, now that I've got that part done, what's next? What do I do next? Somebody tell me. Alright, I've got this part done. I need to do a... Can I do it like that? Probably could. I think I can. I'm going to try that. I'll try it like that with these pieces here. Let's try it like that. I like those. They cut these perfect little notches around everything. Let's try and figure out which way I want to cut this one. Gotta be careful when you're cutting. You end up jacking your whole project up just by cutting too much. You want it to work, but you don't want to take any sacrifices. Make this. Screw the whole thing up. There's that. I'm always left with these little pieces here. That's cool. Yeah, that'll work. That's a cool little doodad right there. I could have made that bigger. I guess I should make it bigger, but oh well. It's all good. Doesn't need to be bigger. Cut that off. and then we'll size this to fit the rest of it. How on earth did I end up with this long stretch of line here? All right. Now that I've got that part done, let's figure out my other part, because that is too much. Let's use this again. Triangular cut things. That's probably too much. Let's do. I know, it's just, you know, you're probably watching, you're like, man, this stuff does take a while, man. Trying to get it right without screwing it all up. That's the hard part. What's that? It's like piecing together a crazy Lego puzzle. But, you know, you can't just snap it together. That's what makes it so difficult. Whack it. There we go. Now I've got that piece cut. Now, let's figure out the rest of that. Now I can cut the rest of that off. Come on, here we go. It doesn't have to be really enormous. Now I can round that off. I know it's a weird piece, isn't it? It's really red looking craziness going on there. I just want to kind of, there's my round cut. Let's see. I've got a round cutter around here. Around here. He said round. There it is. That's what I was going for. That gives it a nice edge to it. Let's get a round cut. Yeah, that's it. It's a nice curve. There we go. Doesn't look so crazy. Alright, now that I've done this, it was there. Ha ha ha. There we go. Then bam. And where do I want this to go? So that's going to go like that. I could just stay like that. And then I can go ahead and stitch that in. I think I want to stitch that, because just like I did the other stuff, I want to stitch it. So let's stitch this up and cut it all to fit. Now here comes the hard part. So you've got this. This goes here. You just bend it back. Slide that over. I know, it'll get smoothed out in the end. So it'll be a little bit easier to... I like that serial number there. I wanted to use the scrap pieces for a reason. Let's see, now I got it. I'll still have to smooth all this out, and I've got plenty of stuff for that. But in the meantime, I want to get the main part done. Now, I'll trim all this up once I'm done. Let's just go ahead and get this married together the way it should be. Get that all singed up, and then we'll have to stitch it up again, and we should be almost there. That's just gonna dry now, and I will be back to yeah, stitch and a bunch of other stuff. And the sanding part, if you've got a sanding disc kit that you can use on a drill, it works good. Belt sanders are better, because you can get in some areas a little bit, because it's just a constant motion. You can get and just turn the item over it, and nice smooth edges. Then you can turn the item sideways and get sideways and this way, you know, all the different angles. You'll probably want to sand anything that's squared off like this, and that's something I'll have to do. You can use a Dremel, you know, just sort of round these off. You can also use your dial. You can use your dial on that as well to get around the edges, and some wax. Bowstring wax works really good too, for those of you that didn't know. I like to use that stuff. Anyway, beeswax probably is the best by far. Anyways, be back in a minute. As you can see, like I said, you get your stitches and you just stitch it up and get both sides done. You got a nice little pouch. Looks, you know, you got this section here, you just loop that right through there, and you can loop that onto your belt. So I mean, you could take it off while it's still on your belt, and you get plenty of room. I don't know which way I had that, like that. Plenty of room for that, and heck, maybe an exo-tack. Shove that right down in there. Heck, maybe even some room for some broadheads in there. You never know. Just shove a couple broadheads in there, why not? And then see if I still got room in there after I shoved all that crap in there. Should still have some room. Look at that. It just closes up just like that. Very, very fancy. Pretty neat. And you could give it to somebody as a little gift. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed it. God bless. Take care.